So today we're going to talk about Trapdoor Springfields. If you have been following Firearms Friday videos, you may remember that we did a forager shotgun, which was a conversion of a trapdoor rifle into a shotgun that was used at the posts in the western frontier to forage for small game to supplement the rather bland diets of the soldiers at those remote forts. So, Trapdoor Springfield, these are models of 1873. We have a cavalry carbine as well as an infantry rifle. So the first Trapdoor Springfields were the invention of a man named Allen, A-L-L-I-N. He was the chief armorer at the Springfield Arsenal. And his first invention was a conversion of existing muzzle-loading rifle muskets to take a cartridge. And it was really fairly easy to do considering the other mechanisms that had been used over the years for cartridge muzzle or breech-loading cartridge firearms. So this was pretty unique, and it was pretty neat, actually, because all he had to do was mill off the rear portion of a rifled musket barrel and fit it with one of these trapdoor mechanisms. And it's fairly unique. I'm not aware of any other firearms mechanism that approaches the ingenuity of this particular trapdoor. So the 1873 Springfield Trapdoor was the first metallic cartridge firearm to be adopted by the United States military. In some ways it was a step back because it's a single shot. And by that time you had repeating rifles. You had the Spencer, you had the Henry, you had the Winchester model 1866, and in 1873 you had the Winchester 1873. But there was a reluctance on the part of the military to adopt repeating firearms. And one of the theories is that they were afraid that the soldiers would waste their ammunition. Well, that's kind of the goal, right? To put a lot of lead down range if you're in an adversarial situation. So it was a bit of a step back to go back to, really, or adopt a single-shot rifle. Vast improvement over the muzzleloader, but still a single-shot firearm. So there were two different models in 1873. One was this rifle, which was issued to and used by the infantry, and this carbine model, which was used by the cavalry. And it has obviously a shorter barrel, a shorter stock, it is lighter in weight, and it has this carbine ring on the off side so that a mounted soldier could clip an over-the-shoulder crossbody sling, could be clipped into that ring. So if you got shot off your horse, or you got bucked off your horse, or your horse fell down, or got shot, you wouldn't lose your carbine. A lot of different firearms have that feature for use by mounted individuals. So, again, let's take a look at how this actually works. It's called the trapdoor because it opens like a trapdoor. And again, it was a fairly innovative method originally to convert these muzzle-loading rifles to cartridge. What I have here is a 45-70 empty case. You can see from the base that the primer has been dented. You can see from the front end that there's no powder or bullet in there. So for safety reasons, we certainly check that out. So cartridge was loaded into the breech. Breech was closed. Cock the hammer, pull the trigger, fire the round. Then to get it out, it's a fairly robust action to eject that empty cartridge. Except before they went to this brass cartridge case, the cases were made out of copper, which is less elastic, prone to corrosion. And one of the theories around the Battle of the Little Bighorn, because Custer and his men of the 7th Cavalry were armed with these trapdoor carbines in that encounter. And one of the theories is that the reason, everybody's looking for an excuse why Custer lost at Little Bighorn. He was outnumbered, outgeneraled, and I don't know that firepower had much to do with it. Anyway, one of the theories is that because when these copper cartridges overheated, which was common with black powder firearms, that when you popped that trapdoor up, the extractor would rip through the cartridge rim, and you were stuck with a cartridge case in your firearm, which meant that you couldn't load a new cartridge, and so you basically had a really heavy club. In 1983, there was a fire at the battle site, Little Bighorn battlefield, and there was a forensic analysis of some of the items that were picked up from that battlefield. So there was very limited evidence of cartridge cases or rifle chambers that showed evidence of somebody trying to pry that cartridge case out of the chamber with a pocket knife. There was some evidence of that, but certainly not enough to have made the difference, win or lose, for George Armstrong Custer. There's another story that goes with it, however. At the Reno battle site, one of the officers there did not have a carbine. He had a rifle with a ramrod, and he used that ramrod repeatedly to discharge or to eject or knock out jammed cartridge cases from the defenders at Reno Hill. So take that for what it's worth. It was an interesting theory, but again, I think Custer was out of luck. So anyway, Trapdoor Springfield, the rifle, the infantry issue of ammunition was this 4570. It was .45 caliber, 70 grains of black powder, and a 405 grain lead bullet. Because the cavalry carbine was lighter weight, it tended to kick a lot more. And 4570 is a very efficient round, but it does kick. It kicks. The recoil is somewhat, it gets your attention, let me put it that way. More so in this lighter carbine. So what the Army did was issue a different loading for the cavalry troops, and it was a 45-55, which meant 45 caliber, same as the infantry rifle, but only 55 grains of black powder to reduce the recoil in the cavalry carbine edition. So interesting. Again, these are perfectly functional. If you wished, you could fire either one of these with modern ammunition. And again, there are replicas of these made now for reenactors or people interested in this type of firearm and want to shoot it recreationally. So again, 4570, 4555, Trapdoor Springfields. Thanks for watching. If you have comments on any of these firearms, please list them below, or you can give us a call at the museum, and we'll set up a time for you to come by and chat with us about this or other firearms of interest. Thanks for watching.